If the music of Lux Terminus was to have any motto or guiding principle for me, it would be that there are no limits. I've always been interested in writing music that is a reflection of everything I'm interested in as a musician, as a writer, performer, even as a human being. And the opportunity to have a band that is open to all of these possibilities is really a treasure for me as an artist.
I really think that the possibilities are limitless with this band. I think on this record show that we can go in many different directions, and so I hope that future recordings we continue to do the same thing. This record really shows that people in the progressive scene want to hear something new. They want to hear a unique approach to this music. We really try to add something new, and so it's just been so exciting to see that people have responded to that in a really positive way.
You know, and having two incredible musicians join me on this journey and add so much of their expertise and experiences to what we have to say together is really something special, I think. It's something that I've been tremendously excited about for 2 years, and the fact that the world finally gets to hear what we've been up to is tremendously exciting. You know, I've played in so many different bands over the years, and I've played so many different styles of music that I've always had an interest in, you know, music not defined by genres, but whatever speaks to me. And I've never understood why people get so tied into genres and this kind of tribe-like allegiance to a specific sound or a specific tradition. I just make what I want to make. And it's the first time in my musical career I've really allowed myself to do that.
When we started this album, it was definitely challenging, and I think that's a reflection of the fact that we were really trying to bring something new to this genre, especially since we didn't have a guitar player. You know, having that core keyboard bass trio that you might see in jazz ensembles, but really adding a progressive spin to it and a cinematic spin to it. That was definitely challenging, and trying to kind of find my place within that music was challenging at first.
One of the best parts about this album is that I do kind of get to use all of the previous techniques that I've learned, being the jazz combo, being in a blues band for a little bit. It's kind of nice not just playing one style, just hiding in the background the whole time, but getting to kind of show off a little bit throughout each song.
So it's been really special to have a project that allows me to do everything from cocktail jazz to gent, electro-pop, ambient music, cinematic music. It doesn't matter with Lux Terminus, you know? If we want to do it, we'll do it. I think a big reason that Lux Terminus sounds the way it sounds is because of the way we came together as a band, which was back in 2016 when myself, along with Matthew Kirshner and Brian Kraft, were looking to play together. We wanted to play cocktail jazz, and we could play at restaurants and make a couple $100, and that would be it. So we learned a bunch of jazz standards, but we never actually played a cocktail jazz gig because I started writing original music, and very quickly the original music started to take a very different direction from the cocktail jazz origins we had. Very quickly we started writing music that became more and more progressive, more and more intense, heavier and heavier, and then all sorts of different influences found their way into the pot as well. Playing in Lux Terminus, writing for Lux Terminus, you know, really the sky is the limit. And I'm tremendously excited about where the future might take us.
There's things on this record that I've never done on any records. You know, I really try to dig deep down and add parts and flavors that I've never incorporated in other recordings that I've ever done. I'm Matt Koshner. I play drums in Lux Terminus. I've been playing drums since I was 4 years old, so we're going on almost 25 years at this point. So I've been playing drums my entire life, and I think Lux Terminus is very much in the genre of the music that I've been influenced by over my life.
I first got to know Matt Kirshner when he reached out to me to join a progressive metal band in the Cleveland area called Gravity. Matt is an astounding talent as far as precision, tone, touch, feel, all these intangible things that musicians all know they love about drummers. The drummer dictates the feel of the band in so many ways.
So I've played with Matt now for 12 years? 12 years. It's gonna be 13. Wow, 13 years. And he is, and I'm not just like trying to boost his ego. He's the best drummer I've ever played with. I think the relationship that Matt and I have, how strong it is, really shows on the album, live performances. Like, we definitely have this kind of unspoken connection when we're playing, and it kind of makes for a really solid rhythm section. My name is Brian Kraft. I am the bass player for Lux Terminus. I've been playing bass since 2003, so I've been playing for almost 15 years now.
I've been playing with Brian Kraft now for over a decade, and we've done, I think, 4 full-length records together, including The Courage to Be, and it's just been really cool to see the progression in our playing together. We always have tried to have a really solid rhythm section within the context of music that is often really progressive, really atmospheric.
Brian Kraft is a man of many talents, and all of them exceptional. He is a wonderful bass player. He's a very similar musician in many ways to Matt, mainly in that his pocket, time, and tone are just exceptional. His ability to find exactly where in the beat to place the notes is really remarkable. His work on the Courage to Be album cover is really incredible and is such a perfect encapsulation of the way I felt about the album and the themes that I wanted to project. He's an incredible person to have in a band. My name is Vikram Shankar, and I am the keyboard player for Lux Terminus.
Vic and I have been playing together for almost 6 years at this point. I really feel like this album especially shows a really great back and forth between the keyboards and the drums. Vikram always brings so many interesting flavors to the music, and so as a drummer it's been really satisfying to feed off of that and then try to bring my own rhythmic approach to the music. And so together I think this record really showcases really good back and forth between all of the players.
So I still can't believe that Vic is, I think he's 23? I think he might be 24. He's a child either way. And yet it blows my mind the things he's writing, the notoriety he's getting. It's all definitely warranted. The dude's a phenom. He's gonna make it big one day. Whether or not he takes us with him, I'm fine with that. But he's gonna be rocking out some big arenas at some point, and I'm just happy I get to come along for the ride right now.
I've been playing piano and keyboard since I was 6 or 7 years old, so really the vast majority of my life has been spent in front of this instrument or an instrument, but mainly the piano. I studied classical piano for 10 years when I was younger, and then I studied jazz piano and got my degree in film scoring. But alongside all this academic stuff, I was always taking in more modern, more progressive music, heavier music. I was always influenced by Herbie Hancock and McCoy Tyner, and I was always influenced by Rush and Dream Theater and Jordan Rudess. Musicians like Tigran Hamasyan, who is an incredible genius as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of electronic music. And all of this became part of the way I speak on the instrument. The concept of The Courage to Be was inspired greatly by the, at the time, long-distance relationship I had with my girlfriend, Laura Nolan. And in dealing with the concept of a long-distance relationship, of course, it has to touch on things like mental health and escapism and emotional ups and downs and all of these things that I think are very relatable to people. And something I really love about instrumental albums, instrumental music in general, is that you can put your own story to it. And because of that, I've been kind of hesitant to give away exactly what the tracks are about, exactly how they fit in the narrative of the story, because I want people to be able to put their own meanings. If this is all cinematic music, then you can set it to your own picture, your own narrative, which I find really, special. I will say though that The Courage to Be is about the ways that when one is going through a long distance relationship, anything difficult, especially something difficult between two parties in a relationship, how you might cope with the difficulties of that relationship, the ways that you might draw strength, the different ways you might cope. Really, all the album is supposed to be is to say, there are very tough times, and life is difficult at times, sometimes profoundly difficult, but really life is worth living, and it's worth fighting through the darkness. And, all I want The Courage to Be to do is to shine a light in people's lives when they need it the most.
As far as the album art is concerned, Vic very much had an idea and a concept for what the album was about, and it was really important to me that came across in the artwork. And so we kind of bounced around a couple ideas until we got the idea of like the silhouettes of two people on the album cover, and he kind of just let me go from there. And a couple dozen iterations later, you get the final product of the two figures kind of in their own spaces, and you kind of get like the tension and the distance that they feel between them. And even though they're back to back, they're almost a world apart.
We wanted to communicate the idea of distance. And distance, in this case, is physical, geographical distance, but I don't think it has to be physical distance. I think people can go through distance in their relationships that mean all sorts of different things, Emotional, social, you have difficulty connecting after a while, all these things that are very human to experience in long relationships. And we communicated the idea of geographical distance through the juxtaposition of the cityscape versus the landscape, nature versus modernity. And that's reflected in the dichotomies of the music as well, between vintage and modern, and synthesized and organic. So really, the idea of The Courage to Be album cover is dichotomy. And I think Brian captured that brilliantly.
The recording session itself was very intense, at least from a drum perspective, for 2 days. I mean, we really just went in there and hammered all of the tracks down in 2 days, which there was that pressure, but at the same time, I think you can really hear the energy and the spirit of the live performance on the final record. Courage to Be, we recorded the drums with Jim Stewart, who is a really well-known producer and recording engineer in Cleveland. But I really think that he captured my drum sound the best on this record. I mean, we really painstakingly made sure that the drums had a really great tone. And so for this record, I really felt that I could really express myself. I didn't feel any limitations in terms of equipment. I didn't feel any limitations in terms of the sound. Jim really dialed in a great drum tone, and I'm really proud of how that turned out.
So recording The Courage to Be was by far the most, or I should say the least stressful experience I've ever had recording. We got to do it in Vic's studio, kind of a very nice, stress-free environment, and took our time, got everything just right, really honed in the sound using the dark glass, and it went really smoothly.
You gotta keep playing, bro. You gotta keep playing.
One of the bigger challenges was the fact that I really haven't played in almost 2-3 years. Since the previous band broke up, I really had nothing going on as far as bass, and so it was almost just kind of not so much relearning the instrument, but getting kind of the muscle strength back. And there's a lot of little technical parts that require a little bit of endurance in the hands and fingers. That was especially in a 20-minute song like Courage, where you kind of have to power through at some points.
The recording process for The Courage to Be for me was almost a 2-year process, because from the very beginning of songwriting, where I was demoing into Logic Pro, I was demoing with as high quality sounds as I could and as high quality performances as I could capture. The songs were written quite quickly, but once they were written, I would keep going back to the demos. I listened to them obsessively. You know, I really went over the album with a magnifying glass by the time the whole thing was done. And I think what you get at the end of all that is that the keyboards are very layered and very intricate in a way that I don't think I could have captured if I did the album recording in a month or a few weeks, you know? of the most exciting parts about making The Courage to Be was to have the opportunity to work with a diverse cast of different players and people to help me bring the vision to reality. This hook is sung on the prologue by my girlfriend Laura Nolan. You know, really beautiful vocal performance, ethereal, layered, I think 16, 20 layers of vocals. I wanted to achieve this Enya sound. And I've had a lot of people say that that vocal performance and that sound is some of the most beautiful stuff on the album. And frankly, I agree. I think Lauren did a marvelous job singing that stuff. That's a wrap.
Hey.
I believe. We brought in Timo Somers, my good friend from the Netherlands, who plays in Delain, and phenomenal guitar player, really. Definitely one of the most underrated, because I think a lot of people in the metal community don't really know just how exceptional he is, just how much he has to say as a musician, also as a writer. So we had him play over the end of the title track of the album, because I knew, you know, I'd written this song that had a spot for an outro solo, or I should say a climax solo. A big, long, sprawling guitar solo is just such a classic way to be a climax for a long song. So I reached out to Timo and he did this incredible solo with so much feeling, so much space and vibe, yet very, very technical when it needs to be. So absolutely outstanding solo, and it gives me goosebumps, really, every time I hear it. And then on the same song, we had my friend Raphael Weinroth-Browne, an amazing Canadian cello player. At the end of The Courage to Be had this string part that was going to involve some soaring high notes that have to sound very tender. So I reached out to him and he did an amazing job. He's been super great to work with. I've actually worked with him since. You know, great guy, great player, and I'd totally work with him again, absolutely. And of course, on the final track of the album, we were blessed to have vocals from the amazing Anneke Van Giersbergen. I've been listening to her for so long, and you know, I figured after all this listening, the perfect way to put an exclamation point on my fanboyism was to try and work with her, and I totally didn't expect anything to happen. But for some reason, she agreed to work with us, and she sings on this song, Epilogue Fly. And she took this song and she just made it so expressive and so beautiful, you know? But I couldn't have anticipated just how much the song was transformed, you know, the way she delivered it. With all the phrasing, all the ornamentations. So we're so humbled and so flattered to have her on this album, and it's been so amazing. The amount of people who've been struck by that song, who say that that song means a lot to them. I mean, couldn't say enough positive things about what Anneke Van Giersbergen brought to this album.
This has been a really exciting experience so far. You know, it's been incredibly exciting and humbling, all the support we've received from people throughout the world. It really seems like people are really getting something out of this record and feel an emotional connection to it, which is really exciting.
To be able to touch people the way that I know we've touched people is absolutely incredible. Because all I want to ever do is help people and motivate people to keep living their lives in the best way they can. And the fact that I know we've already been able to do that for some people is surreal, really. I mean, this album is so personal to all of us. You know, it represents 2 years of our lives. It's so amazing that it's connected with people the way it is.
It's because, again, you know, our goal going into this was to bring something new to the table. It's been really exciting to see that listeners, really from around the world, have responded to that. And, you know, we've had some really great press so far. And people just coming up to us at shows and at different, you know, experiences, and really just saying how the album's touched them has been really rewarding as a musician.
And man, I just have to thank all the people who have listened to this album. the people who have bought the album, streamed it, bought a shirt, bought a hoodie, told their friends, come to a show, you know, written articles about us. The amount of feedback we've gotten and the amount of support we've gotten is so humbling, and it means the world to all of us. So yeah, I just have to thank everybody who's supported us, who's joined us on our journey so far and plans to stay on our journey as we continue through our careers.